The radar operator's coffee went cold in her hand as she watched the blip on her screen deviate from its flight path. What happened next would force an entire nation to confront what they'd been too busy to see. Marcus Chen had been invisible his entire life, and he preferred it that way. At 34, he flew regional cargo routes in a battered Cessna 208, hauling packages between small Midwest towns that bigger airlines had forgotten. While other pilots chased glamorous careers with major carriers, Marcus chose routes that let him land by 3 p.m., just in time to pick up his daughter from school. No one at the airfield asked about the Spider-Man lunchbox he carried alongside his flight bag, or why he occasionally showed up with glitter in his hair from helping with art projects. The other pilots barely nodded when he passed. He was just another face, another plane taking off into anonymous skies. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Marcus dropped 7-year-old Emma at school, her backpack bouncing as she ran toward her friends. She turned at the door, giving him their secret wave, 3 fingers for, "I love you." He returned it, watching until she disappeared inside, the same protective ache in his chest that had been there since the day Sarah died. 3 years. 3 years of being both mother and father, of braiding hair with YouTube tutorials at midnight, of learning that mac and cheese could be dressed up 20 different ways so Emma wouldn't realize how tight money was. 3 years of choosing the cargo routes no one wanted because they paid enough and ended early. His morning run was routine, medical supplies to a rural clinic in Nebraska. Marcus performed his pre-flight checks with the methodical care Sarah used to tease him about. "You talk to that plane like it's a person," she'd say. Now it was just him and the Cessna, and yes, he still talked to it. 2 hours into the flight, his radio crackled. "November 723 Delta, this is Kansas City Center. We're showing you drifting south of your filed route." Marcus checked his instruments, frowning. "Kansas City, 723 Delta. I'm correcting now. Had some unexpected headwinds. But the winds weren't the problem." As he adjusted course, his radio erupted with a transmission he'd never heard in 15 years of flying. "November 723 Delta, this is Huntress on guard. You are in violation of restricted airspace. Squawk 7700 immediately and follow instructions." Marcus's blood went cold. Huntress, NORAD's call sign, in restricted airspace. He looked at his navigation display, his stomach plummeting. Somehow, he drifted into the airspace around Whiteman Air Force Base, home to B-2 stealth bombers and some of the military's most sensitive operations. "Huntress, 723 Delta, this was not intentional. I'm turning away now." "Negative, 723 Delta. Maintain present heading. You have 2 F-22s inbound to intercept. Any deviation will be considered hostile." Through his side window, Marcus saw them, 2 gray fighters materializing from nowhere, matching his altitude, boxing him in. The F-22 Raptors flew so close he could see the pilots' helmets. One pilot made a sharp gesture, "Follow me." This couldn't be happening. Not today. Not when Emma had her school play tonight. She was the narrator in The Giving Tree, had been practicing her lines for weeks in the mirror, her serious little face trying so hard to get every word perfect. He'd promised he'd be there. His radio crackled again, but this time it was a different voice. Calmer. "November 723 Delta, this is Raptor lead. We're going to escort you to Whiteman for landing. Just stay smooth, keep your hands where we can see them through your windows. Please," Marcus heard himself say. "I have to, my daughter has a school play tonight. I promised." Silence. Then, "Copy that, 723 Delta. First, we land safely." The next 20 minutes felt like falling through ice. Marcus followed the F-22s down, his mind racing through everything that could go wrong. Would he be arrested? How long before he could call Emma's school? Who would pick her up? Her grandmother was 3 states away, and there was no one else. There had never been anyone else since Sarah. They landed him at a remote corner of Whiteman. Security vehicles surrounded his plane before his propeller stopped turning. Men with rifles. Dogs. Marcus raised his hands slowly, thinking about the photo taped to his instrument panel, Emma with frosting on her nose from her last birthday. The interrogation room was exactly like the movies. Gray walls, metal table, mirror that was obviously a window. 2 Air Force investigators sat across from him, their uniforms crisp, their expressions unreadable. "Mr. Chen, do you understand the severity of what happened today?" "Yes, sir." I never meant. Your navigation system. When was it last calibrated? Marcus explained about the GPS unit, how he'd noticed it acting strangely last week but couldn't afford the repair until next month's payment came through. How he'd been relying more on visual navigation and radio updates. How the low cloud deck must have thrown off his position estimates. They wrote everything down, asked the same questions different ways. And finally, is there someone we can call for you? The words stuck in his throat. My daughter. She's 7. She needs to be picked up from school at 3:15. There's no one else. One investigator glanced at his watch. It was 2:47 p.m. They left him alone for what felt like hours but was probably 15 minutes. When they returned, their faces had changed somehow. Softer. Mr. Chen, we've reviewed the data from Kansas City Center and your aircraft. Your GPS was malfunctioning, showed you 30 miles north of your actual position. Given your record, your cooperation, and the circumstances. He paused. You're free to go. But your aircraft is grounded pending inspection and repairs. Marcus felt relief and despair collide. I can leave. But how do I? It's almost 3. I'll never make it to Emma in time. The investigator stood. Come with me. They walked outside where the afternoon sun glinted off rows of military aircraft. Sitting on the tarmac, rotors still spinning, was a Black Hawk helicopter. What? Captain Rodriguez, the investigator gestured to a pilot leaning against the helicopter. He's got a daughter in dance class tonight. Says he understands about promises. Captain Rodriguez, a compact man with kind eyes, extended his hand. Where's your daughter's school? Lincoln Elementary. But it's 90 miles. Then we'd better go now. You got 15 minutes. Marcus climbed into the helicopter in a daze. As they lifted off, he watched white men shrink below them, the F-22s that had seemed so threatening now parked peacefully beside the runway. Rodriguez handed him a headset. So what's the play? The Giving Tree. She's been practicing for weeks. My daughter was Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz last year. Messed up her lines, but we cheered anyway. Rodriguez smiled. They just want us there, you know. That's all that matters. They flew fast and low, the Missouri countryside blurring beneath them. Rodriguez made a call ahead, and by the time they reached Lincoln Elementary, 3 minutes before the bell, the principal was waiting in the parking lot, eyes wide. The Black Hawk landed on the soccer field. Marcus jumped out, his hair whipping in the rotor wash, and ran. He reached the pickup area just as the doors opened, just as Emma emerged with her backpack and her worried eyes scanning for him. Then she saw him. Her face transformed. Daddy. He caught her up, held her tight, breathing in her kid shampoo smell. I'm here, sweetheart. I'm here. You came in a helicopter. She was laughing and crying at once. I promised, didn't I? That night, Emma stood on the elementary school stage in a cardboard tree costume, speaking her lines clearly into the gymnasium filled with parents. Marcus sat in the front row, still shaking slightly, watching his daughter shine. The story should have ended there. But Emma told her teacher about the helicopter. Her teacher told the principal. The principal called a local reporter. And because it was a slow news week, the story ran, Air Force helps single dad make daughters play after navigation emergency. It went viral. Within days, pilots from across the country were sending messages. Single parents sharing their own struggles, their own tightrope walks between duty and devotion. Someone started a fund for Marcus's GPS repair. It raised enough to overhaul his entire navigation system. Another pilot offered him a job with better hours and better pay. But the real change was smaller, deeper. At the airfield, other pilots started talking to him, asking about Emma, sharing their own stories. The invisible man was invisible no more. 3 months later, Marcus received a package. Inside was a photo, him climbing out of the Black Hawk, Emma running toward him, the exact moment before they collided in a hug. Captain Rodriguez had taken it. On the back, in careful handwriting, for the promises we keep. For the love that gets us home. Marcus put it on his instrument panel, next to Emma's birthday photo. And every time he flew, he touched them both, reminders that somewhere between the ground and the sky, between duty and devotion, we're all just trying to keep our promises to the people who need us most. Sometimes it takes F-22s in a national emergency to help us see what was always there. Parents fighting quiet battles every day, holding their worlds together with love and determination, noticed by no one until the moment they need to be. But they were always worth noticing. They were always there.